Dear students, light plays a very vital role in our lives. Plants are dependent on light for preparing their food. We, on the other hand, are dependent on plants. So, in a way, we are also dependent on light. We are able to sense the things around us. We are able to see the objects around us only because of light. It is because of light that we are able to perceive, we are able to see the wonderful phenomena like rainbow. So, today we are going to start with the new lesson in which we will be studying about this wonderful thing called as light. So, let us begin. So, today we are going to start with this lesson called light, which is chapter number 16 from the textbook. In this session, we will be studying about introduction, rectilinear propagation of light, and reflection of light. Under reflection of light, we will be also studying about laws of reflection. As you can see in the picture, we are able to see these things because of light. The rainbow, the mountains, the trees, the grass, the road, all the things are sensed by our eyes because of this particular thing called as light. So, the world is largely known through the senses that we have: our eyes, our ears, our skin, all the things that we can perceive, that we can sense, is because of the senses we have, and these senses are dependent on the nature. The sense of the sight is one of the most important senses. We are able to see the things, okay, and this is very helpful, very beneficial for all the living things which have a proper sight. We don't know the importance of this particular sense because we have it, but you can ask the people who are disabled, who don't who can't use these senses properly. Okay, they know the importance of this particular sense. We also can imagine, just by closing our eyes, what can we do without this particular sense. So through it we see mountains, rivers, trees, plants, chairs, people, and so many things around us. We also see clouds, rainbows, birds flying in the sky, all these things because of the particular sense that we have. At night, we see the moon and the stars. You are able to see the words and the sentences printed on this page. So, all these things are possible because of the senses that we have, and because these senses are able to perceive the light. This particular topic, called as rectilinear propagation of light, in this we will be studying how light travels. Students, rectilinear means a straight path. Okay, so light without any hindrance, if there is no other obstacle in between, no other object in between, then it travels in a straight line. So in this particular experiment here, there are different obstacles, but there is a pinhole in between them. So in this particular cardboard sort of boards, there is hole in between, and if you place these holes along one line, if these holes are collinear, then only we are able to see the light. Otherwise, what happens if you misplace or if you slightly displace these pinholes, and if they are not aligned properly, then we are not able to see the light coming from the candle. This proves that light travels in a straight path. So from this experiment we can deduce, we can conclude that light moves from place to place through rectilinear propagation. Rectilinear means what? Rectilinear means straight. It is just another scientific word for straight. You can also call it as a straight propagation. No problem. Okay, but rectilinear is a scientific word and which is used most oftenly in physics lessons or physics textbooks. Light travels from the source in a straight line. Reflection of light is referred to the change in the direction of light upon striking a surface. When does light bend its path? If there is an obstacle in between. When light bounces back, that particular process is called as reflection of light. In simple words, light is nothing but bouncing back of light. This change in direction occurs whenever light hits a surface, irrespective of the texture or the nature of the surface. No matter what type of surface it is, no matter what texture it has, but when light falls on certain things, on massive objects, massive means any object with a mass. Massive can also mean the heavy objects. Okay, now remember that when I'm talking about light, when I'm talking about the objects, I'm not talking about certain mysterious objects like black holes. Black holes are these massive things. They are also massive, but they are so massive that even light cannot escape. When light enters into it, it gets engulfed into the black hole. It cannot come out, it cannot reflect back, just like any other object. So that is an exception. We are talking about normal objects. When light falls on normal objects, any normal object, it reflects back. So this is a picture showing a reflection of light. See here, light is traveling in a straight path, but when it strikes a surface, it is reflected back, and that can be sensed by our eyes. Why can we see light from here? For example, if I place my eyes instead of this place, if I place it here, can I see the reflected light? Now, this will be answered, this particular thing will be answered in the forthcoming topic, which is laws of reflection. But first of all, we should know certain terms from the lesson. So, whenever we want to study something, we should know the terminology. Terminology means the terms used in that particular subject, in that particular topic. So here we are going to use few specific terms like incident ray. What is incident ray? When light falls onto certain thing, that falling light is called as, or the falling ray is called as incident ray. Then there is a reflected ray, which is reflected back, which bounces back, that is called as a reflected ray. Then there is an imaginary perpendicular line, which is called as normal. The angle between incident ray and normal is called as angle of incidence, and the angle between the reflected ray and the normal is called as the angle of reflection. So these are few important terms from the topic. Now we will study, we will just revise what we studied. The light ray which strikes any surface is called incident ray. Then the ray that comes back from the surface after reflection is known as reflected ray. Then there is a normal line that passes perpendicular to the surface. Remember, it is an imaginary line. You will not actually find this any line. We are just using it for our for the sake of convenience. The angle between normal and incident ray is called angle of incidence, and the angle between normal and reflected ray is called as angle of reflection. Okay. Now we can start with the topic called as laws of reflection. What is the first law? The angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection. Okay. So if I want to show it in diagram, this is the case. Here, if I measure angle I and measure angle R, you will find that I is equal to R. Students, now we will again see the earlier diagram. This one. Now I will ask you again, can I see the light from here? Remember that if I draw a normal here, I will just change the pointer to pen. If I draw a perpendicular line over here, just consider it as a normal, and I will be able to see from here only if this angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. But remember, angle of incidence, when it is equal to angle of reflection, light is passing in this way and not this way. Light is not passing through this way. So obviously, if I place my eyes in this particular position, I will not be able to sense the reflected light. Okay, so it is very necessary and important condition that angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. Only then we are able to see that particular light. Now we will move on further. So these were the important terms and the first law of reflection. I will repeat the law. The angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. Fine. Now comes the second law of reflection. This second law states that the incident ray, the normal at the point of incidence, and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. They all lie in the same plane. For example, if somehow if I am able to incident a ray in along this plane, then reflected ray will also be in the same plane, including the normal line, which is imaginary line, but all these three lines are in the same plane. This is our second law of reflection. I will repeat: the incident ray, the normal, and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. So this is your second law of reflection. Well, that were the topics that I had to discuss with you. I hope you understood them. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. And there are some questions that I have placed over here for you as a homework. So first question is, what do we mean by rectilinear propagation of light? Second, what is reflection of light? Third, draw the diagram labeling incident ray, reflected ray, and normal line. Okay, you have to draw a diagram with incident ray, reflected ray, and normal. This you have to show. Okay, and last but not the least, state the laws of reflection with appropriate labeled diagram. So you have to show laws of reflection, you have to write them, and then you have to also draw the diagram where you will also show angle of incidence and angle of reflection. So purposely I didn't put this in this particular question. Okay, because you are going to show them in question number D, angle of incidence and angle of reflection. So no need to label angle of incidence and angle of reflection in this particular diagram. Here you have to only show incident ray, reflected ray, and normal, and then angle of incidence, angle of reflection. That complete diagram will be in this particular question, question number D. So that was all for today. Please do attempt the homework, and then if you have any doubt, you can put your comments in comment box. So see you during next session. Until then, take care. Bye bye.